because this is tech and nothing ever goes wrong in tech. Looks like we are live. So
Hey, great.
welcome everybody. This is ZeroPod Live. For anyone who doesn't know me, I am Toady Hawk, and I have a podcast called ZeroPod that does deep dive episodes on interesting builders in the Ethereum ecosystem. From time to time, we do live stream episodes, and this is one of those. I will be available to listen back if you're not able to listen to the whole thing live as of tomorrow over on our Zero Rights Media feed on YouTube and Spotify. On today's show, we're excited to welcome Rishav Mukherjee, aka Rish. Rish is the co-founder and CEO of Neynar, the infrastructure layer powering much of Farcaster's developer system. And you might have heard his name a few times over the past week because he and his company Neynar have just acquired Farcaster. So excited to have you here with us for this episode to dig into all of this. Welcome, Rish.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Toady.
Right off the bat, first question, why is Farcaster shutting down? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. But
no shutdowns.
That was all over the feed on Twitter for the first few days after the announcement. So I had to troll you just a little bit. But in actual fact, anyone who's watched ZeroPod before knows that I actually like to dig in a little bit to the person behind the project before we get into Farcaster and all those other amazing things. I'd love to hear a little bit about your own origin story if you're comfortable to share. I'd love to know a little bit more about Rish, about young Rish. Where did you grow up? And tell us a bit about your origin story.
Yeah, sure. Let me know if I'm going in too many different directions or something. But short summary, grew up in India up till 17 or 18, moved here for college and studied computer science. Worked at a bunch of tech companies, Microsoft, Facebook, Coinbase. Got into crypto over time, joined Coinbase in 2019, and then got very interested in decentralized social protocols. Started exploring Farcaster in 2021 when Farcaster came out, and finally left Coinbase in 2023 to work full-time on Farcaster-related projects. Obviously had interest in social, which is why I was at Facebook in the past, and kind of mixed those interests together of crypto and social when starting Neynar. And my co-founder, Manan, also from Coinbase, we worked there together for 4 years on a bunch of different projects. I actually helped start Base when I was there. So I was also getting deeper into the Ethereum ecosystem. And yeah, have been building on Farcaster full time for more than 2 years now. And then very recently, like you said, we acquired Farcaster. And so, yeah, now we have the full stack to work on.
I can see that you're an engineer with your efficiency because I think you just went through my first 25 questions in the first question. You're like, let's go. I've got a dinner date. Speed run.
Happy to dive into any of that. Yeah.
No, I think that's really cool. You mentioned that you grew up in India and you came to the US for school. Where did you go to school?
Harvard.
At Harvard. Amazing. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience working in big tech and some things that you might have learned and maybe unlearned?
Overall, it was pretty good. I think I enjoyed working. So at Microsoft, the time I enjoyed the most was when I was working on Microsoft Teams, which back then was a very small project. Like Slack was the big gorilla in the room, and Microsoft was trying to do something new. Obviously, it's a much bigger product now. I left right when it was taking off. I think there were a couple million users. Now they have like hundreds of millions of users or something. And I was interested in more consumer side of the problem. And I ended up working on Messenger at Facebook, which was a good transition from enterprise messaging and chats to like consumer messaging, which was a lot of fun, learned a lot. It was kind of around the similar time that I had gotten really interested in crypto. I had been exposed to crypto back when I was in college when Bitcoin had the $100 to $1,000 run up in the 2013 run.
Were you a participant in that run-up or a spectator?
Yeah, unfortunately, with my student budget money, so had put in like $100 or something that became $1,000, and we went to a bar a few times.
A win is a win. A win is a win.
And then kind of forgot about it, and obviously sold all of that. And in hindsight, should have spent more time learning about what this was and gone deeper in my curiosity, but didn't really remember or think about it much till Ethereum came around. And it was during that 2016 period where people were talking about Ethereum. And then obviously the larger run happened in 2017. That's when I started diving deeper. I actually looked at Coinbase open positions at that time, but ended up joining Facebook instead, and never applied to Coinbase. In hindsight, maybe should have applied earlier. Ended up working at Facebook for a couple of years. And I just didn't get crypto out of my head when I was at Facebook. So I was working on Messenger. I was having a lot of fun, but I was just like thinking about it on the side all the time. So at some point, I was like, okay, I have to leave and I have to go work somewhere where I can focus on this full time. And I want to learn more about this. And I want to be working with people who are excited about it. And that's when I left Facebook to go work at Coinbase full time. And I had a lot of fun at Coinbase. We built a variety of products, and I obviously ended up learning a lot about the ecosystem. And yeah, have been around since.
Well, that was a very formative time for the industry. You know, people talk a lot about the Coinbase mafia or whatever you want to call it, but the reality was there was just such a density of talent at that early point in time when Ethereum was just coming online. Why do you think that is, that so many people from that era of Coinbase have gone on to found interesting things in the space?
I think it was one of the only companies that a normal person would know about. Like for somebody like me who was just entering the ecosystem,
Yeah.
um, I didn't know of, like, Mount Gox imploded. And so there was that one company. But
Good
if you
thing you
think
turned
about,
that job down, eh?
yeah,
Head of product at Mount Gox.
I know,
Gone off
right?
the resume.
So if you are like somebody like me who is thinking about, hey, I'm like kind of looking at all of this on the side, where do I go to learn more? Kind of the only name that you knew off the top of your head was Coinbase, because that was a place where you were buying and selling crypto. And so I think a lot of people interested in the ecosystem who were innately curious and passionate and wanted to learn more or build more just kind of ended up in that same place. And Coinbase was full of such people, and who were like very interested in where DeFi was going even before like DeFi summer came about in 2020. And during my interviews, like we were talking about this kind of stuff. And so the place was full of such people. And I think it kind of attracted similar people, and there was this sort of gravity there. And it worked out well for the company at the time. And I learned a lot and met a lot of people who I still know today.
I've also heard that Brian was a very aggressive recruiter, and he just had a knack for finding people. The person who told me that, I think, was Jacob from Zora, and just told me about how he basically got, like attracted or like headhunted from Australia, and like,
Hmm.
Brian just saw talent and went after it when he saw it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's true. Coinbase was already a little too large by the time I joined for Brian to reach out to me personally. Like, I think it was around like 500 people or so. But I think for any successful company, the CEO has to be very focused on recruiting and has to find the right people early on. So I fully believe that.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Did you ever work with Dan Romero at Coinbase, or did your times overlap?
No, I think my co-founder Madan overlapped a little bit, but I don't think we were directly working with them at any time.
Well, that leads into my next question, which is about Farcaster. You mentioned a little bit in the answer to the first question about how you discovered Farcaster and your interest in decentralized social. But when did you come to actually join Farcaster, and sort of what was your original experience like when you came to
Yeah,
Farcaster?
we joined like relatively early on. Like we were among the first 200 users of the protocol,
Flex,
and
what's your FID?
194.
That's amazing.
And we kind of found it just by chance. Like I think Dan was posting on Twitter about, hey, if you want to try a decentralized social crypto protocol or
Sure, best
something.
email. Sure,
Yeah,
best email.
yeah, that. Yeah, I think Madan responded. His FID is 191, and he responded. He joined. He sent me the .dmg file where I joined like a few minutes after, and there were like two people between us.
So
Somehow.
what's the connection there? Are you and Manan friends already from before, or were you already cooking some other things, or?
Yeah, we were working together for pretty much all the 4 years we were at Coinbase.
Okay.
So we were already like product engineering partners.
Okay.
And we were exploring decentralized social even for Coinbase at the time. So Coinbase has had for like a long history of trying to participate in decentralized social in some shape or form.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So
it's finally.
did we ever almost get like Coinbase Social at some point? I know we have it now with
I
the
think
base app, but
multiple times.
wow.
Amar and I were there for a fair bit of it, and we explored a few different protocols. We also tried building something internally. But when Farcaster came about, I think it was the first time where we looked at the elegance of the solution, where unlike other protocols at the time, it seemed like it would scale better. Scaling problems have been solved a lot better now But looking at it in like 2020 or 2021, scaling was one of these much bigger challenges. And Farcaster seemed to solve it in ways that were appealing to us. And so when we found it and then we joined, and we quite liked the way the protocol was being built. So we stayed active and started building on top of it. Coinbase didn't start building on top of it for a while, but we already started building like hobby projects on the side. And then at some point got into it enough that we left and started doing that full time.
Amazing. So you were on Farcaster from early on. Tell us about the founding of Neynar. How did you decide that that was a problem that you wanted to tackle?
Yeah, we didn't actually start with a Farcaster infra company. We just wanted to like kind of follow our curiosities a little bit. And we also kind of wanted to like do our own thing. Like we had been at Coinbase for about 4 years, and it was great. Like I don't like necessarily have any bad memories from there. We just kind of wanted to explore what we could build on our own, and Mara and I wanted to do that together. So in late 2022, early 2023, this was around like when open mints were like a big trend in crypto.
Right.
And so we started with like a NFT oriented product, which was built around NFT social. And
Okay.
the social part of it came from Farcaster. And Farcaster didn't have hubs at the time. They had their own APIs, and we had like cobbled everything together to build this like NFT app. And Farcaster released
I'm old enough
hubs.
to remember when everyone's NFTs would appear on their profile on
Right.
Farcaster. That was great.
Yeah. And so we had a lot of fun building that, and we were all still, but like code back then was mostly written by hand. Like maybe GPT would write the SQL queries, but we were
Right.
writing a lot of code.
Back in my day, we used to write code by hand, uphill both ways.
And it's not that long ago. It's like barely 2 years. And I think when Farcaster released hubs, we started running one because their APIs were slow. So if you were Dan starting up our app, which he was testing at the time, it would take like 30 seconds to load, because when we read his follower graph from Farcaster, it would take a long time to like read and page through everything. So when they released hubs, we were kind of among the first to run it. Having our own hub actually made our own app a lot better. And so we built up all these APIs on our backend that took hub data and made it application level data, and we were using it.
And that's an important piece to make this, sufficiently decentralized social actually sufficiently decentralized too.
Yeah. And we were excited about Farcaster generally because we thought it was cool, and we had been looking into the protocol for a while. And then we started using it, which was neat, and it helped our app. And then at one point, it was like one of these random evenings. I hadn't even left Coinbase yet. This was like a week before I left or something, where Maran was like, hey, we have these APIs. What if we just like add a little web page that says, hey, we have hubs. If you want to use hub APIs, no need to run your own. Just like sign up here and we'll get it to you.
The middleman,
and
hub middleman.
Yeah. And it was like, I think Varun had put together a cast the same day saying, hey, we have about 50 people running hubs. This would be a good time for an Alchemy for Farcaster kind of product offering.
Interesting.
And we were like, oh, that's not a bad idea. What if we
hold
just
my
did
beer.
that? Yeah, just did that. And so we actually didn't even build the product. We just put up a landing page that had like, it was a single page that said Farcaster hubs by Neynar, sign up $30 a month. And we put it out there, and like within a couple hours, 4 people had signed up, and we were like, oh shit, we have like $120 now. We don't have the product. And so we like we emailed them and
Good
we said,
incentive,
hey, hold on.
yeah.
Yeah, this is coming. And we stayed up that night. We built an external API that people could call. And when you signed up at the time, I would manually respond to you. Like it would page my phone, and I would wake up and I'd be like, oh, there's a new sign up. And I'd like manually respond to you saying, hold on, this is coming. And I'd send you a little code snippet that you could go use with our hub endpoint.
This is called like human automatic, I think is what they call that.
Yeah.
Like
there was
you've
no
heard of
automation.
ClodBot. You were the ClodBot, basically.
Exactly. Like I was, so I left Coinbase a week after and traveled a little bit while doing this for like the next month or so because I just left. So I was in Amsterdam, like on my way to like a bar or something, and somebody signed up, and I had to like turn the Uber back around, go back to my computer, and like get the sign up email out. And yeah, very soon, like there were enough people signing up that we were making like small chunks of money, and that's when we were like, okay, maybe this is the product that we should actually launch with, because there isn't enough traction on our NFT app. And so we transitioned in a couple months into this like full Farcaster infrastructure company.
The NFT app, was that a Farcaster app? That was pre-frames, wasn't it?
That was
So
pre-framed. So it had like the social rails were from Farcaster. So if you commented on an NFT, that comment would show up on your Farcaster profile.
gotcha.
We were using FIP2 back then already, which is like kind of crazy how old FIP2 is now, which people use for channels and stuff, but channels didn't even exist. It was just the protocol primitive. Um, and yeah, we were using all of that. But the app had like, I don't know, 30-ish people, and maybe like 10 would use it daily. So it wasn't really skyrocketing. While the infrastructure product, like people were actually paying for it, they were finding us and they were giving us money. And so we were like, okay, maybe we should do more of that. And so we kind of shut down the app in a couple months and fully moved into this infrastructure layer.
This could be a good place maybe to draw a distinction between the protocol and the app Farcaster before we start talking about the acquisition. There might be some people watching the stream who are still confused about all that. And, to their credit, it was kind of confusing because when Farcaster launched, Farcaster was a protocol and Warpcast was the in-house app, and there were other apps that you could also use to access Farcaster, but then Warpcast became Farcaster. Now there's two Farcasters. So there is some confusion you could see if you're not from that ecosystem. So can you explain what the difference is there and why it matters?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're somebody new coming into this ecosystem for the first time, the main takeaway to have is you're interacting with this app called Farcaster, but all the data on that app can be used anywhere, and the app can't stop you from getting that data. So you could be kicked out of this app for any reason, but you can go get the data elsewhere, or you can run your own server, which is the node, and read that data yourself, and nobody can take this data away from you. I, for what it's worth, know this personally because my first Twitter account, for completely unknown reasons, was shut down. Like I just woke up one morning and it said, "Hey, you violated terms of service," and I didn't even use that. Like I was fully like just like I only used it for reading. There were no new tweets or whatever. I think the last thing I'd retweeted was like a founders fundraise. And yeah, I
Did
just
you
got
tweet
shut
something
down.
mean about Elon? Just be honest.
This is
No.
way before Elon.
Oh, this was
This
before
was
Elon.
like,
When it
this
was
was
still
just
Twitter.
like, yeah, when it was still like completely random. And so got shut down, and still till date, don't know why, never got it back. Had to start a new account from scratch. And so I think that problem, most people don't think about this problem, but if anybody is running into this problem on any platform, that can't happen on Farcaster. And I think that is the way to talk to people about it. Now, you're right that the things are called the same thing. Like the app is called Farcaster and the chain is called Farcaster, or not the chain, the protocol is called Farcaster, and so on and so forth. We are seeing more of this in the market generally, like base app and the base chain, or the Uniswap app or the Uniswap chain. So I
Keep
think
it
there's
simple.
just some like convergence in branding, so to say. We are not going to change. Like Farcaster has gone through enough rebrandings over time or when it started, it actually was called Farcaster and Farcaster. And then they changed it to Warpcast. Like people ask, hey, why was it changed? But why was it changed from Warpcast? But the truth is it actually was Farcaster anyway. Then it
Right.
was changed to
Changed it back.
Warpcast. And now
So
they changed
the
it
rumors
back.
that you're changing it to Narcaster are not true. So
No, we are going to stay away
I may
from
have
branding
started that rumor
confusion.
myself.
No more rebrands. I think we have enough work on our hands to do without going through rebrands again.
Well, speaking of rebrands, I think it's pretty cool that you got a fully refreshed brand too. Because I mean, the Farcaster brand itself was refreshed not that long ago, within 6 months, 7 months. Maybe?
Yeah. That was a good refresh. I think they had, from what I understand, mode switching was hard. So the colors they previously used didn't do well in light and dark modes separately, and you had to do a lot of custom work to make it work like that. So the rebrand kind of also helps engineering, and we're going to keep all of that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about the acquisition. I'm sure that's why a lot of people have tuned in here. I'd love it if you could take us back to the first conversation, if you're allowed to say anything about it. I'd love to know like who approached who and what was that moment like? Sorry, emotionally.
I mean, I can only speak to my emotions. I think if you ever get Dan on, it's better to ask him.
Dan has been on the pod before, but not recently. So maybe we will ask him.
Yeah. Why not? I think for us, we were mostly considering from a standpoint of, can we do justice to the work that we are taking on? And can we actually deliver something that both we are proud of and the community will enjoy using, and is a net good in the ecosystem and the world? And it wasn't a super simple decision to make, in the sense that we aren't bringing on the entire Farcaster team. Like there are like 15, 20 people who are like, I don't have the exact numbers. We are bringing on some of them. And then we have our own team, which is anywhere between 11 to 15 people, depending on if you count the contractors or just full time. And so we were going to have a total of, I don't know, still less than 20 people. But now we have the work, which is a combined work of like over 35 people. And so how do we best manage this, and how do we actually work on this towards a positive outcome where it's net good for everybody involved? And we had to like kind of think through stuff, look at things. And I think there's still a lot of work we need to do to like get to the end of this transition period. And we are in pretty much the middle of it now. So our teams are talking to each other, and our team is learning from their team, et cetera. But that was the main decision-making point that we had. Like, are we going to be able to steward this in a way that is beneficial to everybody? Now, obviously, emotionally, we would like to. Like, we like Farcaster. We want it to live. We like the people who are here. We just wanted to make sure that it would actually work. TBD on that. I think we're still too early.
I think you guys would be very great steward. I was excited to hear if it had to change hands. I was excited to hear that it was going into the hands of a very good steward that we knew, was a positive sum builder in the ecosystem, and I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. Going back to the acquisition itself, was this like a long conversation? Like, is this something that you've been talking to them about for a while? I think a lot of people are confused about that, myself included, because we saw so many moves from for the Farcaster team, obviously looking for product market fit and like pivoting in certain ways, doing a full rebrand, acquiring Clanker, which was no small feat. And then some people were surprised, I guess, to see a few months later that, the acquisition news come out. So a lot of people are wondering, is this something that was in the works for a while and the timing was just right? Or did something change?
Yeah, no, it was not in the works for a while. We knew that we were going to be an independent company. So like Farcaster and Neynar have never really talked about acquiring each other generally. If Neynar ever wanted to get acquired, I am sure we could have had those conversations, but I think it was pretty self-evident that we had our own runway and we were kind of building the company, and Mon and I weren't really interested in selling the company super early. We kind of enjoy what we are doing, and we want to see it through.
But you probably never considered what if it was the other way around?
Right. Yeah, we didn't. We definitely did not spend time considering that either. We were just focused on what we were doing. So we weren't really focused on either getting acquired or acquiring Farcaster or any such thing. We started talking about that, I think, right after New Year's, and we spent some time, like a week or something, thinking about it. And then I think things moved relatively quickly in the grand scheme of things. And
yeah,
so,
sounds like it.
yeah, once we finalized the decision between the two companies, we put it out there so that there's less confusion among the community.
Yeah, and it's hard. Like when mom and dad are fighting, the kids can tell, and so I think the first week maybe of January, Dan of Rune got a pass because people were like, "Oh, it's a long holiday," and then like a few more days of not really casting much, and I mean the wolves were out. You had people posting, "Oh, it's sold. Farcaster's winding down. It's all over. It's so over. We're so back," and it was pretty wild.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. And so, yeah, we wanted to help with that as well, where we were like, okay, we don't have to wait all the way through till the entire transition is done. Once we have finalized that we are going to do this, let's put it out there, and then we kind of transition in public somewhat. And so I think that helped both the community and our teams, because we now have this like sort of public transition period where we can move things over, and there's going to be a few things we need to learn in the process. But also now the people know what's happening. So you don't have to like wonder and
for sure,
have the doomer outcomes.
Yeah. So I don't know if there were other suitors, or maybe you don't know either. But in either case, do you know why Dan of Rune chose Neynar as the steward to go forward with the protocol and the app?
It's a better question for them, but I imagine we were just the right people at the right place at the right time. We had been building on the protocol for a long time, probably in terms of just focused building longer than anybody else other than Merkle. Like I know many people were building then or maybe building now, but I don't know anybody else who has like consistently built just for Farcaster.
Hmm.
for this long a time, and the company is based on Farcaster protocol. Like we don't do a lot else other than Farcaster today.
Yeah, I
And
think people agreed with that when the news came out. A lot of people sort of brought up the term known quantity. Like a Neynar is like the definition of a known quantity in the Farcaster ecosystem, because every builder who has launched a mini app has probably used your API, so they're all very familiar
yeah,
with you guys.
yeah. So I think we were the right people from that standpoint. And I think there was some understanding that giving it to a third party that the community didn't know might not be a great transition.
Yeah, probably
And then
not.
we were at the right place
Farcaster
at
has
the
been
right time.
sold to Lens now,
Yeah, yeah.
to Mask Network.
And yeah, we were just at the right place at the right time. We were still focused on building the right things. We were active in the community, and we had been building for a while. So when the stars aligned somewhat, I think we were ready to take it on.
Was Base involved in the conversation at all? In the sense, I mean, that, obviously TBA uses the Farcaster protocol for their feed. So at some point after the decision was made, was a conversation had with Base about what that would look like and what the future looks like for their current setup?
Yeah, so I think it was generally understood that nothing would change for the base app as a result of this, because base already runs on in our infrastructure. So even when Farcaster wasn't acquired, they were already using our APIs anyway, and we have been
Right.
working with them for many years now. There's nothing changing on our APIs, so there would be no change to their app or their product. We did tell them that we were going to announce this. And, it's just we told a couple other people as well right before the news came out, just to like give people a heads up for people who are building on the protocol, so they're not surprised. Um, and that was relatively good, and they appreciated the heads up.
In your announcement, you talked a lot about maybe a vision shift, or where you feel like you'll bring the protocol as a company that maybe differs from where it had been or where it was going. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. In my head, for what it's worth, it's actually not that different from what Farcaster feels like.
I
I
agree with
think,
that.
yeah, I think Farcaster has had a few different goals maybe over time. But what it has always felt like, at least to me, is a decentralized social network of developers, builders, creators of different kinds, but people
Uh-huh.
who make new things in the world. And I don't necessarily mean to say that, sometimes people hear about people who make new things in the world and assign a status to it. That's not the way I mean it. Like, you can be doing great things and not be building net new things. Like, you could be a world star athlete, or you could be a military veteran, whatever, whatever. But there's a corner of the internet where people just build new things, and that's just what they do. And it's not necessarily from a status perspective; it's just from a hobby slash what you like to do in the world perspective. And Farcaster has always felt like a corner of the internet where a lot of people who build new things come and talk to each other and share what they learn, or pick up ideas from each other and share what they build, and other people try it. And it has felt like this since the early days, and they kind of cultivated this audience. And so our vision is to generally like build a product or a package of products that suits this audience. Like, this is the audience that seems to like enjoy using Farcaster today. And instead of like trying to shift it in a different direction and bring a different kind of audience on, we should just like bring more of such people on and
Uh-huh.
bring a package of products that helps these people. And we are those kind of people ourselves, so helps us, and ideally creates a positive reinforcement cycle. And so
This is
that's like
something
the
that this is something that Derek said recently. Derek from Native on the
yeah.
timeline recently, where he said, let like empower the apps to go and find the users. You don't need to necessarily attract all of the users. Maybe you do in certain scenarios where VCs are breathing down your neck to grow at a certain breakneck speed. But at a certain point in time, you can just empower all the builders who are already here to go and grow their apps, 10x or 100x, and those users will come. Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I think we'll have to do some of that. Like, I think we will have to still build products that help builders get users. If users is the end goal, or like get art, like help artists get like patrons or whatever,
Uh-huh.
but get demand from the other side. So we can't build just the supply. So if you think about it in like economic supply demand, like there's a supply of things being built, but we also have to like solve for the demand side in some way.
Yes.
But I think we can reduce the constraints of that demand, in the sense that I don't necessarily think products built on Farcaster should work just on Farcaster. Like you should be able to build here and like kind of deploy anywhere or share anywhere. Like the goal is to get demand. And so we'll try to help get you the demand you need wherever that demand is and wherever the demand best fits what you are building. A lot of work to get there. But I think generally, like I would like Farcaster to be the best place to go build something new. And then we'll help you get the demand you need for what you have built. Also needs a lot of work from the builder side. Like all of this can't be packaged into just software. But I think for the right builders who are motivated, hopefully it'll be the right package for them.
Do you have any concrete plans for how you plan to sort of support builders, maybe more or the same as they were in the past? Like what does that pivot look like practically for builders in the space?
I mean, I think from a simple product standpoint, there's some few simple things we can do, just like off the bat, which is today when you build products, one, like I said, they only work on Farcaster. So if you build a mini app, it'll only work as a Farcaster mini app, not like a Word mini app or like a Telegram mini app or a Reddit.
Or you're building
whatever.
3 apps and then hoping that they all work together. Yeah,
right.
We know all about
building
that.
them is hard. You have to like understand Farcaster, understand Neynar, understand whatever other pieces you might use in the back. And then distributing them is hard, where you have to actually kind of solve the distribution problem for yourself. And our vision or goal is to like try and tackle these 3 pieces. Where when you start building, you shouldn't have to necessarily think about building 4 different ecosystems. And this needs some work on our end. Won't happen immediately, but let's say like a year from now, you'll go build something and it'll just work everywhere. And you'll
Does
just
that
go
mean
share your
unifying
URL.
standards? Like, does that mean unifying standards with World App or with like?
I mean, unifying
look like?
would be great. I don't necessarily think we need to wait for that, in the sense that in the age of AI written software, you can just have the AI deploy 3 versions of the app. You don't even need to know.
Okay.
And just
Okay.
the
Claude, deploy my app everywhere. Make no mistakes.
Exactly. And this is kind of like maybe I'm over projecting or being too overly optimistic, but I would say I think there's a reasonably good chance that if an AI can build a Farcaster mini app, it can also build a World mini app, and we can just have our AI build both at the same time, and then you go deploy on World or deploy on Telegram or wherever else you want to deploy. Like if like Reddit or Twitter has like good mini apps in the future, we can just help you build it, and you'll just go deploy it there. So I don't think we need unification. Like standard unification seems like kind of a moot point if. Like, who even cares about the standards if you're not going to look at the code anyway? AI is good at looking at different standards and figuring it out.
I guess I'm just thinking more about from a UX perspective. If you're playing a mini app like our mini app Betterment, for example, and you're playing it on Farcaster, and now you want to go and play it on the World app, but now your leaderboard is different. Stuff like that, would require like unifying standards, but maybe
Stuff
not the
like
most
that,
important thing. But
yeah, stuff like that will definitely require some UX polish, and we'll have to figure out what that looks like. And you're right. Like, again, I would love unified standards, but I just don't think we'll be waiting for it necessarily.
Yeah. But if you're watching this World app,
yeah, I mean,
slide in Rish's DMs. Yeah.
Leighton, who is an investor in Neynar as well.
Oh, is he? Nice.
Yeah, he did
Leighton.
reach out to me after the acquisition. So I think World App is actually, I think, would be great to collaborate with, and I think they'd be open to it. So I don't necessarily think World App is a real problem here. It would probably be other Web 2 platforms where you might want to publish where it's harder. But I'm optimistic we'll figure that part out. And technology like AI will actually help us figure that part out, and we'll get somewhere.
Do you think we're going to see mini app standards emerge on some of these Web 2 apps like X and I don't know, LinkedIn? Are we going to have LinkedIn mini apps?
A standard, I'm not sure, but mini apps, yes, I think so. Like Reddit already has some, LinkedIn already has some. Yeah,
I didn't know. I didn't know Reddit.
Yeah, I was surprised to see them as well, but they both have mini apps now. I think Twitter will. Like Nikita seems like he knows what's going on, and it's just a matter of priority. And I think they will also have something.
Well, I noticed
whether they'll have standards, I don't know.
Their announcement that they made recently about the pricing data for cash tags on Twitter, I noticed that they're being served by Blinks, and Blinks is the Solana Foundation funded company that basically recreated the frames standard from Farcaster for Solana. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some kind of an evolution in that direction as well. Hopefully, we'll also support Ethereum and Base, but we'll see.
Yeah, I hope so. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think most like Apple has a mini app paved path now, where if you're building mini apps, the App Store charges you differently versus if you're building a full app. So I think there is recognition in the larger Web 2 market that mini apps are a thing. And I think different companies will figure out how to support it. And I think it's a matter of time. And
That's
so we'll
something you
help.
said on GM Farcaster, is that you'd like to see the line between sort of mini app and app get blurred a little bit. And I wanted to ask you to expand on that a little bit. Do you think that there'll be like a pipeline from like building a mini app from, on Farcaster to actually getting it in the iOS store? Is that in the Apple store?
Yeah, I think over time there will be. I think what will happen is because software generation is going to get easier and easier, we'll find software of all different shapes and sizes. And the bar to install something on your local device, on your iOS or Android homepage, will be very high. It's going to be for things that you want to go back to all the time. You have a repetitive daily use case for, and you want to find it at the right place whenever you want to find it. And few things will match that bar. And there will be like many, many things where you just want software on the fly, like you're trying to do something and it happens at the time, and you won't install it or anything. It'll just be in the flow of whatever you're doing. And all
Or you
those
want it
experiences.
contextual,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
exactly.
lot of mini apps on
Um,
Farcaster, would not be as fun to use outside of Farcaster because
right.
they
Yeah.
actually sort of interact with Farcaster in real
Yeah,
time or what have you.
exactly. And people will come up with net new ideas for this. They'll combine different actions and different mini apps. So I think, yeah, there's just going to be a lot of that kind of development. Some of that will graduate to a full app.
All the light and brand new day, no nightfall or rain can keep you in the shade. Over the moon, a sunlight ray shining through the clouds, golden colored gaze, yeah. Joy in the morning, you'll hear sounds of love, trumpets in the sky, flowers from above. Imagine all your pain just melting away. Can't wait to see the day.
I wanted to take a moment to sort of shift gears a little bit and ask you about Clanker. When I was sort of asking people if they had questions for me to sort of relay to you today, a lot of people had questions about Clanker, and understandably so. Clanker has been kind of passed along. It was acquired by Farcaster and now acquired again within 2 months.
Yeah.
So people are uncertain what that means for the future of Clanker. How does Neynar see Clanker fitting into the Farcaster ecosystem going forward?
Yeah, great question. I think a lot of people asked me questions about Clanker as well, and some of them were maybe unhappy with my prior responses of saying, "Hey, I don't have anything to say at this time about a few things."
Well, if you don't, you don't.
I mean, I'll try to add as much as I can. I think generally want to set context that there's no intent to do something that'll harm the Clanker community. Like, we are trying to do the best thing we can from Clanker. Obviously, this is the first time we are taking it on, so I can't speak to whatever's happened with Clanker in the past. But we are excited about Clanker. That's why we took it on. And the primary way I see this at a high level is that as people build new software, people will want to find new ways of monetizing. And there's the traditional ways of monetizing, which is like, hey, pay for use, or like subscribe, or buy merch, or whatever else. And there will be new ways of monetizing, which will be like crypto native in some ways. So you can issue assets, you can let people trade and get trading fees, you can let them mint NFTs. You can even
create
do
a Claudebot instance and have them launch
yeah,
a token for you.
yeah, all these kind of things. And I think Clanker will fit into the crypto native monetization part of the business, where if you're going to go build something on Farcaster, how do you monetize it? And one of the ways to monetize it will be Clanker led. That's already true today. Like, there's a bunch of people who have monetized their apps via Clanker coins.
Our app, Betterment,
Yeah.
has been powered by
Yeah,
Better
exactly.
since day one. So
Yeah.
many such cases.
And that will get more integrated into an experience where you can come build, you can come monetize, you can monetize in crypto native ways like Clanker. When you're talking to our Neynar agent or whatever, like Farcaster agent in the future, it'll tell you how to use all these different pieces in the ecosystem, and it'll guide you through these monetization possibilities. And Clanker will be one of the top monetization possibilities. And you'll just have more tools at your disposal about how to like earn ongoing revenue from the time and effort you're putting into building something. And exactly how that materializes and how the experiences build up, I think we learn a lot in the process. I think Dish is joining our team later this week, and we learn a lot more about Clinker as well. But the goal is to use it as an integral part to the rest of the ecosystem. And I think it'll do well as one of the building blocks. I think people have specific questions, or at least had in the past, I've been asked specific questions about, hey, what about this? What about that? This specific tokenomics thing in Clinker. I don't really know the answer to those questions right now. I think Merkle did something specific. Before Merkle, somebody like the Clinker team had their own thing. So I think as the team onboards, we'll have to figure all those pieces out. But generally, our goal is to like have Clinker as one of the important building blocks of the overall package.
Does that statement go for some of the decisions that were made by Merkle, like for example, that tokens earned by clankers, for example, in the denomination of those clankers would be returned to those builders? I probably didn't say that properly, but currently Clanker earns the, for example, the banker side of the banker ETH pools that it owns, and recently Merkle decided that they would give all of those banker tokens back to the community to either burn or use how they like. Is something like that at risk of being changed, or is that something you need to discuss and figure out first, or are those things
I think
safe?
we have to find out more before I can speak to it. Honestly, once Dish joins the team, I think we'll have a deeper conversation about all of this. We don't obviously, I think people should assume that we don't want to introduce new risks wherever we can avoid introducing new risks. So if somebody's sitting there thinking like, oh, they're going to come and shoot everything to bits, that's not the intention here. Our intention is to change as few things as possible and improve things for the better. Now, exactly what will change, I think that's TBD, and we'll find out.
I made a cast about that. I think it was yesterday when people were spreading a lot of FUD about Clanker at the time on X and elsewhere. And I said, yes, Rish and Neynar are going to, buy Farcaster, and the first thing they're going to do is kill the biggest revenue generating part of the protocol that they just bought.
That's not the plan.
Awesome. I'm really glad to hear that Dish is coming along too. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like? Was that a hard decision for him to make? Because, it's been a crazy couple months for him.
Yeah, I honestly felt bad that he had to go through this multiple times. It's a stressful thing to go through, and he obviously just got into this process with Merkle, and he hadn't even been there for more than a couple months when now he's having to go through this again. I think I said
he's like Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal kept getting traded in his prime.
Yeah, it's not the most pleasant experience, I'll say. But we are trying to make it as easy for him as possible. We are excited to have him on. I think he's also excited to keep working in the ecosystem. And so I think it'll be a good partnership. So yeah, we are looking forward to having him join the team.
Amazing. All right, what is next? What is coming up next? What should people expect from the new Farcaster once the transition is fully done? I've heard you talk about an AI focus or mini apps focus. Tell us a little bit about those plans.
Yeah. So I think the very first couple of things people will notice is that we'll do a little bit of a cleanup. Where we look at what things are getting used.
Don't kick me off.
No,
like a user cleanup.
No. Good to be specific.
Everybody who has ever criticized Neynar on the timeline.
No changes to users or the protocol or cleanup in terms of just cruft that builds up at the application layer. So if you're using the Farcaster clients, and again, I'm speaking just to the clients, not the protocol or whatever is on the protocol. Just like clients, there's some features that probably don't get used enough, but are taking up operational bandwidth, or more code is being written for them, or infra is needed to support it. Those kind of things, if they're not delivering real end value or are just painful for the team to upkeep, we are going to start taking some of those pieces out. So
but
today,
you're going to find those 3 people though who are going to be like, Rish, I use starter packs every day.
Yeah, I know. There's definitely going to be some fans of all of these things that we end up tiny things in the grand scheme of things that we end up removing. But we'll hopefully build new things with our time that they'll then become fans of. So today, for example, we removed P&L from Wallet. And it was calculated fully in-house, so they weren't using any third-party APIs. And it was just a lot of work to calculate, maintain. It was still inaccurate. I started getting bug reports for it. And it was expensive, the infrastructure spend to keep it up to date. And
personally,
it
I was
didn't
glad my wallet looks a lot better now without the P&L.
Yeah, so it was like one of those things where, like, ideally we'd have it up and running and it would be accurate and working exactly as is. But that's not the case today. And it didn't seem like putting in a little bit more time would help. It seemed like putting in a lot more time and money would maybe get it to the point where we were satisfied with it. So it was a better decision to like kill it, at least at this time. Maybe there will be an easy API to use this somewhere in the future, and we look at it again. But
I
those
think
are
one
the
of the
kind of like
problems
smaller features.
One of the problems with
Yeah.
a feature like PNL is that the wallet on Farcaster is a good trading tool. Actually, it has become quite a good wallet for trading. But it's not just a trading tool; it's also, a tool that many builders use to to manage their apps, or the users use to use many apps. And the problem with something like PNL is like if you're someone like me who's using Noise and Tippin to tip people in your native token all the time, then your PNL is just like
Right.
negative 35,000 at any given moment because you're just giving out tokens.
Yeah.
So it's not
Yeah.
like it's not a one size fits all solution anyway for the
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what we thought as well, where I actually think the wallet is a very critical piece of infrastructure for the overall vision that we have. And we want to keep it as usable, as smooth, as fast as possible. But these like tinier features on the side that take up a lot of effort, but aren't delivering the same level of value, that we might start taking out. So there's a couple more of those we'll probably have over the next week or so at the client level. And that's where we'll start. And then over time, I think we'll start blurring the boundaries of the Farcaster client, not the protocol. The protocol, I think, at least for this conversation, we should just refer to it as Snapchain. So every time I say Farcaster, I mean the client. And so the Farcaster client.
When you say Farcaster, that's the snap.
Yeah. So the Farcaster client, the Neynar developer tooling, I think the lines will start getting blurry a bit there, where you don't necessarily need to think about the client and the developer tooling as separate. They'll start mixing up, and you can build things within the client, whether it's web or mobile. And it'll be like agent assisted in like all the right ways. So you don't have to like worry about how to like get started, or how to think about distribution, or how to think about monetization. And if you look at the Neynar agent today, it does all of this stuff on the timeline somewhat, but it'll start enabling it in all the different flows you might have within the app, so that you can actually do this quicker and easier.
The Neynar
and over
agent
time,
is pretty good. Like I've enjoyed anytime I've asked it. It's
I'm glad.
always gives good answers, has some personality to it. Is this a bot that you coded in house, or did you sort of use something off the shelf, or what's the story?
No,
on?
this is fully in house. I think Grin's been working hard at it, and some of our other team members have pitched
Shout
in.
out, Grin.
And yeah, I think it's good, and I think we want to make it such that other people who are building products also have similar agents at their disposal. So if you think about our Neynar mini app, or the Neynar Studio, which we just launched, which allows you to build mini apps without writing code, the agent kind of like helps you distribute that product, because when you ask the agent, hey, how do I do something, at the right time, it'll tell you, hey, you can do this using Neynar here. Now imagine if you have other products that you have built, but you also have an agent at your disposal that now can talk on the timeline and tell your audience that, hey, here's how to use your product to like go do XYZ. And the lines between, hey, the agent does this and the product does that, and how do they cleanly separate? I don't think there's a reason to have clean separation. Like, the agent is the voice of your product, and you should be able to switch seamlessly between how you operate between the two. And I think more products will have embedded agents that are similar, and we'll help people build those things.
That's really interesting. And I've said that all along, is that people have sort of tried to figure out what's the secret sauce that has made Clanker so successful, because Clanker has been far and away the most successful launchpad on base. And I think the biggest secret sauce, there's a lot of factors, obviously, people and timing and all these types of things, but being integrated into the social graph and into the feed is just basically it's just OP. You can't compete with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think Clanker is actually a great example of where they have a website, clanker.world.
Nobody uses it well. Very rarely.
The agent is like the voice, and that's how you interact, and you then have a more full-featured thing. And I think that will happen for more products in the future.
You can tell how important the feed is, because people will go to clanker.world, set up a deployment, and then click the little bar that says activate this in the feed, because they know if it's not clanked in the feed, I mean,
right?
Why clank it at all, right? So that's interesting. That's the first time I've thought of like other mini apps like having their own agents and what that could enable. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
Can you tell people a little bit more about Studio? Because that is something that's fairly new, and what can people do with that? How powerful is it?
Yeah, so Studio today is focused on Farcaster mini apps. It'll move on from that focus to like a broader focus over the next few weeks and months. But today, if you go to neynar.com/studio or search for the Neynar mini app inside Farcaster and tap on the Studio button, you can just tell it like, hey, I want to build XYZ. And if you just keep going through it, it has a couple phases where it'll give you a wireframe, and then it'll start like building things together, wire up all the APIs and the data and all of that. If you go through the stages and finally go and like launch your app, it's a fully functioning mini app, and you don't have to write code. You don't have to like understand XYZ or the mini app standard or whatever. It'll allow you to send notifications. It'll allow you to like do mins, all these kind of things that people usually do within mini apps.
Is this like what people warned us about with AGI, where the robots would replicate? Like now your mini app is making a mini app?
It is kind of like the fact that a mini app can make a mini app is a little bit like hard to get your mind around, but yeah, that is what's happening. I do think the web interface is actually in some ways more fully fleshed. So you can go and actually look at the code files if you are interested in diving deeper, and the mini app won't let you do that, but the web interface will. But yeah, I think the goal here is to just like give you easy ways to build things. And that part is going to get well integrated into the client. It's also going to like kind of, like I said, lose the boundary between mini apps and agents and kind of build things together. And over time, ideally, Farcaster will become the place to like go build something new and try like starting from there.
So the studio aside and sort of agentic focus aside, you have mentioned on GM Farcaster and elsewhere that the focus will be on builders and on sort of making mini apps a first-class citizen in the app. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and what does that look like? What kind of efforts are we going to make mini apps easier to discover and easier to succeed?
Yeah, I think mini app discovery today, at least from what I understand it, is like a problem. Where imagine, and there's like multiple ways to solve this problem, but like if you're somebody new who comes in and you don't really have a network here, so you have 0 followers or 0 following, but you actually build something, it's actually very hard to get your mini app in front of people. And it's like for understandable reasons, like it's like the overall network is built to resemble Twitter. And like if you join Twitter with 0 followers and 0 following and like put a link out there of your webpage, nobody would discover it there either.
No,
and
tree
so
in the
there's
forest.
yeah, so it's like a little bit of a mismatch between what the population here is trying to do and how the protocol and the client is built today. So I think we have to bridge the gap somewhat, where we need to have like better discovery surfaces where your network doesn't necessarily determine whether you get discovered or not. If you look at things like Hacker News doesn't solve this fully, but they still have somewhat of a better solution where you can join Hacker News and they have these things called karma points or something. But if you ignore the karma points, you just go launch something, your launch will show up at the top of the Hacker News forum for a little bit before it goes down and other launches come up. And if your launch gets upvotes, then it'll actually climb back up, even if it's from a little while ago. And that kind of achieves this like mix of like, okay, I don't have to have like existing karma points or existing network to get my launch to show up at all. Everybody's launch shows up for a little bit, and then whether you stay up there or not depends on how much engagement you get and whether other people like your product and whatnot.
Okay, that's an interesting point, but also I think reputation is really important, even more so in crypto than elsewhere. So maybe I want to be more wary of that.
Absolutely.
Of that app that climbed its way to the top of Hacker News, but I don't know who built it. So how do you solve for that in the context of crypto?
I think we'll have to, like, we obviously can't copy exactly what Hacker News does, because to your point, like, financial rails are involved here and different things could happen. So I think we have to use a mix of like using AI to understand what the product is, using AI to understand whether that product should be recommended to you, because Hacker News forum is the same for everybody. I'm not sure that is necessarily needed, although it's a good simple way to like start. But what is the right recommendation for you? And who's like, what kind of products do you want to see? Have we verified, or maybe verified is too strong a word, but have we tried to at least assess whether this product is safe to use or not, and given your best guess? And all of those factors will combine into then you seeing a list, which might be different from somebody else's list, but some shape of a list where you can see like, okay, this is what's launching on the network right now. So you can go to that page anytime and see what's new. It's sort of similar to how people think about like trending tokens or recent tokens, where the tokens are what's launching. But now you can like kind of merge tokens, agents, mini apps. It's all the same thing somewhat.
I
And you
think
can
I've
see
even
like,
casted that before, is that we should be treating discovery of apps more like we treat discovery of tokens, exactly, because
yeah.
I want to know who's playing this game the most, and what's their
Exactly.
reputation score,
Yeah.
and all these
Yeah.
things.
And
So
the
are
app
you?
might have a token, and
Yeah,
you might still want the token. So they're not discrepant like that way, but yeah, it might just help you discover new products quicker.
that's interesting. And then when you say that sort of the recommendation engine will be agentic, I guess is sort of what I'm hearing. Does that mean that people will actually get like messages from the Neynar bot with like these recommendations, or does it just mean that the sort of leaderboard page that we currently see on the mini app page will just be agentic fed? Or
Honestly, I don't have like a full clear picture to describe right now. I could imagine both or either. Like there might be people who do better with messages. Some people might want notifications. Some people might just want a page they want to go look at. So there's different flavors of this possible. We'll probably start very simple. Like we'll probably start with just a page. So no messages, no notifications, whatever. And we'll see what actually works and whether this is even something that the community gets value from. And assuming there is value and people like it, then we can build more layers into it where you can get these things in different shapes and pick the shape that works best for you.
I think when you go to the current mini app leaderboard and you read the top 10 or the top 25, sometimes there's like maybe half of those that make a lot of sense, and the other half you're kind of like, what is this doing here? And I've heard that feedback a lot. And so I think there's definitely some work to be done there where you're like factoring in all the things you're mentioning to the point where you get to that leaderboard and you're like, oh yeah, this
Yeah.
makes sense.
Like my view on the leaderboard making sense or not is sometimes it's as simple as lacking context. Like you see the name of a mini app, but all you're seeing is the name and icon of the mini app. So you don't really know what it's meant to do. What is the context behind it? Why was it built? While if you look at Hacker News, like super simple, it's like an old school 90s type forum, but it has a title. The title tells you what it's about. You can click and read the rest of the body, and there's usually a link that you can go open the web page. But now you have context by the time you land on the product, like, okay, this is why this product was shared here. And building some pieces of that context into that leaderboard can actually solve some of this problem, even without changing leaderboard rankings necessarily.
Yeah.
So if you see like what the creator of the product had to say, who else has maybe used this product when you're looking at it, all of that adds to this layer of like, okay, should I go check this out or not?
One thing the Base app did recently is they sort of added these Apple App Store like pop-ups.
Yeah.
So when you click an app, it actually brings it up with 3 screenshots, tells you what the app is. I could see a future version of that has like rankings and reviews, just like in Apple. I think that would be a great improvement over time.
Yeah. That was actually a good product. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. So we're here to talk mostly about Farcaster. So of course I would be remiss if I didn't ask the Farcaster feed if they had any questions for you. And there's a few people that did submit some today, so I wanted to give you a couple of those and let you take a stab at them before we close out. One of them was actually from NetNose, who's my co-founder at Betterment. He wanted to know when OS level notifications, and some other people chimed in saying that would be amazing. Is that something that's possible, that you think could be on the roadmap, where people could turn on notifications for a mini app, but it would be OS level?
Oh, I see.
Instead of just being inside of Farcaster?
It's a good question. I think I have to take a look at what the technical difficulties there are, if any. Not sure off the top of my head. I think there's like other difficulties in terms of like it's easy for somebody to go rogue. And the app is the one sending notifications on behalf of the mini app. So if the mini app goes rogue, it's actually the app that has to bear the consequences. So I think the bar for a mini app to get access to OS level notifications is going to be relatively high, even if that does get unlocked. I don't think it'll just come up to like new mini apps. But
that
over
could be
time,
interesting in and of itself, though, something to earn as a builder. But,
but something like that could be interesting. I agree.
I know we just talked about mini app rankings, but Crypto Mantis had a specific question about how the ratings will work. And currently, I guess the algorithm is kind of a black box. Nobody really knows, but it seems to value transactions quite highly. And so some apps like Remix have quite a few players daily, but don't show up on the leaderboard ever because they don't have transactions in their app, or not very many of them. So I guess Crypto Mantis wanted to know if that's something you would revisit with new algorithms for that page, or thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't actually have the full algorithm in my head.
No,
to
it's
give
not
a
up.
to give a very specific answer about what's happening today. But I think it's reasonable to assume that we'll revisit everything. It's a matter of what gets revisited when. But anytime we touch a piece of code or look at a part of the app, we'll want to evaluate from first principles whether that is the shape we want to keep it in. I think the Merkle team generally made a lot of good decisions, so I don't think we'll end up changing a lot of stuff just for the sake of changing it. But wherever we can make improvements, yeah, we'll go and make those improvements.
Garrett wanted to know, shout out Garrett, what's been the most surprising thing for you in this entire experience of Neynar acquiring Farcaster?
I think there's a bunch of work to be done. So there's probably a lot of surprises coming that we haven't uncovered yet.
Okay.
But
hopefully not too many.
Yeah, hopefully not too many. But I think, I don't know if there were any real surprises. I think Merkle was pretty good at being transparent about the kind of work we were taking on, the kind of infrastructure we would have had to go manage. We kind of...
No spaghetti code inherited?
I'm not the right person to speak to that. You'd have to talk to Manan about it. But I would assume the code is actually good and they're a good team and we have worked with them in the past. So I think they've been very helpful. And yeah, I don't think there's been any kind of like negative surprises at this point.
Julie at JULI says, what Clanker utility would you most like to see, assuming there's an ecosystem with thousands of builders that are happy to maybe integrate it and try new things with that utility?
Yeah, I think the general vibe, I don't know if it matches the utility terminology that they're using, but I think the general outcome I would like to see is Clanker actually driving meaningful monetization for developers, where you have an asset that you issued as a builder and you understand its tokenomics and our agent helped you understand the right tokenomics to build into your product. And then how do you actually use that asset to monetize your product? And Clanker achieving that would be a good outcome for both Clanker and the rest of the ecosystem.
Do you foresee, this is not a question from them, but it's sort of a follow-on question from me, is do you foresee if Clanker becoming more a part of the actual UX of the app as it is right now? Because right now, Clanker is acquired by Farcaster and it's been only a couple months, so, we'll give latitude there, but it's not really something that you would know if you just showed up in the app. It's not like there's a tab in the app that says Clanker or launch a token or something. Do you think that could happen in the future?
I don't know about a tab, so I can't speak to like specific user interface, like exactly where in the user interface it'll appear. But I think it's reasonable to assume that it will get tied better into the overall experience. So yeah.
Amazing. And then Jan says, no, actually Jan didn't ask, but I know if he was going to ask, he would ask you if animated PFPs were coming back.
Yeah, I think animated PFPs is actually among the hardest things to say no to. I really like them. I still like mine. But yeah, unfortunately, unlikely to come back.
Too bad. We're done here. No, I'm just kidding. All right, I've got a little lightning round here. It should take only a couple minutes, and then we'll let you go for the night. So if you're ready for a lightning round?
Yeah, let's do it.
Favorite cuisine?
Mediterranean.
That's always a good one. So like primarily Italian, Greek?
Italian, Greek, Turkish. Yeah.
Good choice. That's a good sort of encompassing term. Lets you choose more than one cuisine. That's smart. What about your favorite leisure activities?
Working out, reading.
Good ones. I was just about to ask you, have you read any recent books that you would recommend?
I did actually. So I've been reading a lot of like old classics recently. So very
like
recently,
1984. No, I'm just kidding.
Recently, I finished. Yeah, I mean, 1984 is actually a great book. I should reread it. But I recently reread Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. A very sad book. But yeah, I just wanted to reread it.
Cool. What's your favorite tech gadget? And you can't say a computer or a phone.
8 Sleep for my sleep.
What is 8 Sleep? I've heard a lot of people talk about. Is it just a pillow or a mattress? Or
it's a temperature-controlled mattress topper. It's very popular now. I have been using it since 2021. So I'm like I've gotten very dependent on it. So when I travel, it's kind of rough because it's like 4 or 5 years in now. But yeah, I love it.
The funny thing is people are going to think I like asked you to say this and it's like a paid podcast spot because they always do podcast ads. Rish, I need you to say 8 Sleep when I say
I wish 8 Sleep paid me because I have recommended it to so many people.
Look, 8 Sleep, if you're watching this, Rish and I, we're ready.
There you go.
Slide in our DMs. What is your favorite travel destination? I know this could be a hard one. I don't even know what I would answer, but do you have one?
Alaska.
Really? I've never been to Alaska. Why is that?
Yeah, I love Alaska. I don't know, just developed an emotional bond over time. I've been there many times. I've spent like, I don't know, multiple months there, like 3-4 months over the years. I
What do you
was
do?
there
Are you
for,
a fisher? Are you like, do you like the outdoors?
we like the outdoors. We hike, we camp. There's a lot of wildlife to see. We camped in Lake Clark National Park in not late, but autumn 2025. Yeah, just a lot of good times. And I love that place. Yeah.
Were you there mostly in the summer or the winter?
Late summer. I've been
Okay.
there winter once, and it's really cold, but it's worth going checking out once. But usually like end of summer, beginning of fall.
So it's basically the same way I recommend people come to visit where I live in Canada. It's like, yeah, come in the summer. It's beautiful. Don't come in the winter. We're all depressed. We don't need more people depressed with us here. Who's an inspirational figure to you? Someone that you look up to?
I don't know if I have like one specific person, because I think over time I've realized that everybody has like multiple shades to them, and you want bits and pieces of, because you
Never
can't
met
be
your
somebody
heroes.
else.
Never meet your heroes. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I gotta never meet your heroes, and I think I like a lot of people, and I like the specific work they have done or specific things that they embody. But I think it's hard to pick one person that I would take 100% as is.
Fair. All right. What about an alternate career path? Did you always think you were going to be doing what you're doing, or what if you weren't? What would you be doing?
I kind of knew growing up that I would be in tech in some way, because I'd always been interested in computer science. But for like fantasy questions, I think F1 driver would be great. I've always been interested in motorsport and driving.
Have you ever done one of the demos, like in Dubai? You can like go and actually drive on.
No, I have not. That would actually be great at some point.
We know what to give Rish for, I don't know, for what celebration. When Farcaster gets to to 1 million DAU, that's what we'll get you. We'll pull together.
Perfect.
All right, and just in closing here, we're done with the lightning round. If someone's listening in here and sort of they're on the fence about Farcaster, either joining as a builder or just using it, what would you tell them? What would be your message to them?
I think Farcaster is a great place to come and build something new, get your idea out there and get feedback, and learn from other people. And it's only going to get better from here. But even if we have no future promises, that is true today, where you can come and iterate with real people who want to try things and give you good feedback. And that's a good place to start for somebody looking to build something new.
And finally, in 1 year's time, what does success look like to you? If you're looking back on a year of Neynar Farcaster, what does that look like if it's successful?
Yeah. I was telling GM Farcaster the same thing. I think they'd asked a different version of this question, which is like, if a corner of the internet can say, when we want to build something new, we go to Farcaster, I think that's success. And over time, hopefully we'll grow that corner of the internet. But that would be a good start.
Amazing. Well, happy to be growing this corner of the internet with you, Rish, and congratulations on the acquisition. Excited to see how you guys steward the protocol and excited to be along for the ride.
Awesome. Thanks, Toady. Good to be here.
Thank you so much. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. This will be on our Zero Rights Media feed on YouTube and on Spotify as of tomorrow. And we'll be back with another episode soon. Thank you, Rish.
Cool. Bye.